Over 2 decades in production. Star power before they were stars. Masked Mutilator, the movie, is about to hit the big screen with horror, gore, suspense, non-stop action, beautiful girls, pro wrestlers, and more. This is the Masked Mutilator podcast with your host, executive producer and co-screenwriter, Dale Schneck.
Welcome to our debut. I hope you'll join us frequently as we examine a very special horror movie. Today, my special guest is Doug Yasinsky, CEO of World Cage Fighting Championships. He's also a former pro wrestler and one of the stars of Masked Mutilator. Doug in the movie plays a disgruntled cook in a group home for juveniles. And throughout the film, many of the teens are mysteriously disappearing. So, Doug, welcome, and tell us what it was like working in this movie.
It was a blast to begin with. It was my first experience with the feature film type acting, so we had a great time. The cast, the crew, everybody was phenomenal. We just all blended together. It helped that I had some friends that I already knew that were in the movie when I got there, so it took a little of the edge off for me. But, we turned it into a party scene, you know?
And I think that'll show when people see the film, don't you?
They will, but they won't see the behind the scenes, what went on. That's where the most of the fun happened. But as far as in front of the camera, I put this up against anything that's been released in horror in a long time.
Yeah, and I think the fun of this podcast and our weekly podcasts for Masked Mutilator is that we'll learn some of the things that went on behind the scenes. And people will actually, though, when they see the movie, think, wow, that was the guy who said he did this or that. So I think it's going to be a revelation and a lot more fun than most people would associate with a horror movie, because the movie is scary, but the folks making it were just a terrific group, I felt. Doug, you've been friends with a number of famous pro wrestlers as a pro wrestler yourself. Can you give us some of the names and the memories attached to those friendships? Yeah,
absolutely. There's so many, but some of the close wrestlers that I got to that most people would know. Bam Bigelow, a very close friend of mine. He used to come up hunting to my area, to my house, during the winters. Came very close to George the Animal Steele. Great guy. What's great is I grew up watching a lot of these guys as a kid. And when I got into the industry, to actually still wrestle with them and get to know them on a new level was incredible. It really was. And of course, when you get the good ones, you get some of the bad. My biggest disappointment was a guy named Ivan Putski. Idolized him because I have a Polish last name. He was known as a Polish Power.
Yasinsky is Polish?
Yeah, what are the odds, right? So I actually had an opportunity on the show to wrestle him. I was all pumped up. I think it was either my first or second year in the business. So I'm pumped. I'm ready to put on a show with this guy. I get there, and, it's giving away some of the wrestling. Maybe it ain't giving away, but, it's a little predetermined, and we talked. And, I said, let's do this. I want to go out there and have a great match with this guy. He was my idol as a kid. And he said, first words, kid, my name's on the poster. My job's done. I'm not working tonight. We're going to do this. We ain't going to break a sweat. And I was a little disappointed in the attitude. Mm-hmm. But, throughout the industry, you find, you run into that.
Wow. Incredible. And I think you and I met because of pro wrestling, I'm pretty sure. And that's how we got to cast you in Masked Mutilator. So it was a valuable connection to the movie, and it's paying off, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it opened quite a few doors for me, including, the acting. And I made a lot of long life friendships, including yourself, through the pro wrestling industry.
Yeah.
And it's nice because a couple other pro wrestlers are in this movie. And it's like the first horror movie that actually intertwines two, what do you want to use, genres?
Yes.
Which is horror and pro wrestling. two cult followings. And that's what's unique about this movie.
And for the people listening to this Mass Mutilator podcast, remind them of which promotions you were part of. You were Doug Flex, weren't you?
I was Doug Flex when I was in ECW. I was the original American Patriot before that got stolen from me. That's another story. I started in the industry as the Executioner. I wrestled as a Terminator. I had quite a few gimmicks over the years. But
great. Doug, one of the other stars in Mass Mutilator is Glenn Hetrick, who is now well known around the world, I think, as the main judge on Sci-Fi Channel's Face Off series. Now, Glenn played Rocker in our movie, as well as working with Paul Sutt, one of the other actors, and they both collaborated and did the gruesome and horrific special effects in our film, which was shot over 20 years ago. So, and Glenn must have been maybe 19 or 20, I think, at the time he was playing Rocker in the movie. So what memories do you have of working with Glenn Hetrick or even socializing with him after a day's shoot?
Glenn's the best, and meeting him on the movie set, we actually became pretty close friends, and we stay in touch till today. To see him at the pinnacle of the special effects industry in Hollywood is incredible because he's the first person ever put makeup on me for a movie or TV, right? Yes. And now look at him, so I always tell people, you see that guy, or if I hear his name, yeah, he put makeup on me in the first movie he ever did. So that's cool. And it's funny you said he might have been 19 or 20. Then he must have had a fake ID because he came out to the bars with us. So we might have to call him up on that one and see what's going on with that. But it was cool. It was like, because we shot this movie during the nighttime hours for the horror effect and basically scheduling. And that's when it needed to be shot. So we were shooting sometimes till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And then, when people like you and the writers and the rest of the crew went home, we break out some coolers of beer and watch the sun come up and have a good time. And it was great because, Glenn became one of us during that group.
I thank you very much for listening. Check back with us next week for our next Mass Mutilator podcast.
For more podcast episodes, to be a part of Mass Mutilator, if you have the guts. And for exclusive behind-the-scenes bonus material, go to maskedmutilator.com. That's maskedmutilator.com. Or else.
This has been a Steve Mittinen social media creation.